What's up, you guys? My name is Noah Frias, and this is A Sit Down. Now, before I begin, I would like to apologize for the fact that I haven't released any commentary in a long time. About 2 or 3 weeks, I think, at this point. And the reason why is because I've been working out, I've been going to the gym now, and that's because I've had a lot of different issues with my weight, and I'm really trying to go back to the weight that I was before. And on top of that, I've gotten this new job, so I'm really trying to make my schedule work, and I'm really trying to fit that in with the content that I'm producing, especially because political news happens so quickly and information gets old so fast. I feel like there's a lot of different things that have happened since I've disappeared, and I really feel like I need to talk about them and really get as much information out there as possible. When deciding what I wanted to discuss, I feel like this was the most important because it is the most pivotal moment, in my opinion, for the Democratic Party in 2018. And this moment is the election of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I may have pronounced her name wrong, and I totally apologize for that. My ancestors are rolling in their grave as we speak for my terrible Spanish. Nevertheless, I congratulate her. I congratulate her team. I congratulate the effort they put into this campaign. And I congratulate the fact that they were able to do it without major funding from any major businesses or corporations. So for those who don't know, Alexandria beat Joe Crowley, who's a Democratic incumbent and a known member of the Democratic establishment. She beat him for the 14th Congressional District of New York City. And the reason why this is so important is because this 28-year-old woman, a member of the Democratic Socialist Party, has now made a pivotal change in the Democratic Party. A pivotal change that was started by Bernie Sanders, and she is now moving forward on it. And I think a lot of other people are going to follow suit. Now allow me to explain everything and why what I just said matters. So, with Alexandria's election, we are seeing the movement that Bernie Sanders started taking full effect. Bernie Sanders' run for president wasn't only an effort to become president, it was this effort to try to push the Democratic Party towards a more left, Marxist, socialist direction. Regardless of whether you agree with that or not, that's what a lot of the people of the Democratic Party have felt like the party needs to go towards to. A lot of the individuals feel like the party was too centrist and not left enough. And it seems as if the Democratic Socialists are finally standing up and mobilizing themselves and getting the necessary votes to take down the establishment that exists within the party. Now, this story itself sounds very familiar, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. It sounded a lot like the Tea Party and what happened back in 2010. For those of you who remember, or those of you who are just too young to even realize what a political party was, there was a big issue from the Republican Party, especially in the face of President Obama. Now, a lot of people feel like President Obama's policies were too socialist. A lot of people felt like the bailouts were wrong and that they were unethical and they were an overreach of the government. And a lot of people felt like Obamacare was going to further perpetuate this socialist policies and the socialist system that Obama was trying to implement. So in response to that, a lot of the Republicans felt like the Republican candidates and the people who were in office were established. They were just going along with the Democrats. They weren't doing what they were elected to do. They weren't keeping their promises. So they booted them out. The Tea Party took a lot of the seats in the House. They won the Republicans the House that year in 2010 in the midterm. And they took a lot of the seats in the Senate. They were being spearheaded by people like Senator Cruz. And the whole goal was to be steadfast in their ideals and to make sure that everyone understood that smaller government, less regulations, less taxes, and less government oversight was fundamental. These were fundamental ideas that needed to be implemented and needed to be protected at all costs. And these ideals and the protection of these ideals was shown when the government shut down back in 2013. And that government shutdown happened because there were Tea Party members who said, I'm not going to vote on a budget that further increases the government deficit. Now, this relates to the Democratic Party because I'm seeing this happen with the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders sparked something, and the election of Donald Trump pushed that spark and let that fire blaze. And it's only being poured on more and more by the election of people like Alexandria. These individuals are done with a Democratic Party that doesn't push socialist and somewhat Marxist ideals. These members are done with the Democratic Party that is establishment, that is center, that is sometimes even right-leaning. These individuals want a Democratic Party that represents the people and represents the working class people especially. So, my fear is this, and this is kind of my observation. We are getting another Tea Party rising out of the Democratic Party. And for those of you, you're like, oh, well, that's fantastic. Of course, those who agree with socialist policies think that's great. But for other individuals, this is the scariest thing in the world. We're going to get another group that literally says this. These ideals are fundamental. These ideologies are true. And these ideologies need to be implemented, because if we compromise on them, we're compromising on ethics and humanity. There's a problem when you say stuff like that, when you make things fundamental truths, because then there is no room for dialogue or conversation. The only conversation and dialogue we can have is how to best implement your ideas. And that's what a lot of people try to do. They try to have dialogue and conversation about their ideas and the best way to get those ideas done. But the reality is, the best way that representative democracy works is when individuals are fully aware that they have their ideals and they have their beliefs. But when you get into that room, you are with other individuals who don't think like you. And there needs to be legitimate compromise and conversation about different ideas and different beliefs. And the reality is, that is not what either side wants. Well, let me specify. That's not what the Tea Party wants. I am assuming that is not what the Democratic Socialists want. We don't know that yet. And this is why I made this video. It's to give you my observation and my speculation. I speculate, and I'm praying to God this doesn't happen. But I truly believe that Alexandria is going to go in. She's going to push this climate, which is probably already evident within the Democratic Party, of no longer compromising on ideals, no longer compromising on workers' rights, human rights, all these different type of things, and pushing very socialist, very hard left ideologies. And what's going to come out of all this is the system further dividing, parties further dividing, massive polarization, and conversation is going to further be impossible to have. Again, I might be completely wrong. My pessimistic views might be entirely wrong. My pessimistic observations might be delusional, and there might be some optimism with this election. And she might come in and say, we need to talk, we need to have a conversation, and we need to compromise. Or again, it might work the other way. And she might say none of that and say, I'm not going to compromise on the working families that put me in office. And that phrase you're going to hear come out of every other Democratic Socialist that wins. If that is the energy and the momentum she's coming in with. And that is the problem. Because now, as I said before, we're going to have two sides who refuse to compromise on the ideals that they believe are fundamentally true. Again, I'm sorry for bringing such negativity and pessimistic viewpoints to you guys, but I feel like I needed to discuss this. I'm glad and happy that the Democratic Party has finally started to move towards the direction that a lot of different people wanted them to. And I'm happy that people are finally being content with their political parties and finally being supportive of their political party and finally saying, I can get on board with this. So, because I was also happy when the Republicans did it. You know, a lot of people were happy with the idea of the Tea Party having a group of individuals who, you know, wholeheartedly believe in these ideals. My only issue is when you get into the room and you don't allow there to be any conversation, there's going to be a problem. And there's going to be nothing that's going to get done. And I'm upset that this is happening I'm almost 20, so it's going to happen in my 20s. All this gridlock, division, and polarization, because goddamn, I wanted something to get done in Congress. But it's looking like that's what might happen, and if it does, you're going to hear a lot from me. So please, you should like, subscribe, and share if you like what I'm saying, and if you like the information and content that's being given to you. I appreciate you guys for watching this, and I really hope that you support the channel. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.